Smart people are often lonely, not because they have no one by their side, but because they choose to step back to live authentically, even at the cost of silence, misunderstandings, and backbiting. This is not just a story about loneliness, but the silent journey of maturity of a person sober enough not to follow the crowd and brave enough to listen to himself. Elliot used to have a lot of friends. Not the casual type, but the kind of being present at every party, tagging each other in every story, and always being the center of the most vibrant group chats in class. At 17, his weekly schedule was packed. Birthday parties, weekend get-togethers, Monday gossip, Wednesday milk tea, and Friday drama, where stories about others were torn in half and shared with laughter. Elliot was not precisely a talkative person, but he was always noticed. Not because he was brilliant, but because he knew when to join in and how to tell a salty and dramatic story to make people stop and listen. He used to think he was connected, very real, because everyone called his name whenever they had something interesting to share. One day, while telling a seemingly harmless story about an absent person, Elliot realized that the person beside him was no longer smiling. He was silent. He stood up. He left the table. He didn't turn around. And that moment, which seemed so small, was like a crack in a glass surface that was supposed to be transparent. Elliot was used to laughter, responses, and nods of pretended innocence. But that day, that silence seemed to pierce a hole he had been trying to avoid for so long. That night, Elliot lay staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in his life he asked himself, "Why do I feel tired after every meeting?" Not tired of talking too much. Tired of trying. Tired of smiling unnaturally. Of stories that weren't real. And of feeling. He didn't like any of the people who called him best friends. That tiredness wasn't new. It was just that today, he had no reason to ignore it. He remembered the times he forced himself to smile and said things he didn't believe to keep the conversation going. He remembered when he returned from a party, took off his headphones but didn't turn on the music because his head was too noisy. He used to be afraid of missing out. But suddenly, he was scared of himself, becoming someone he no longer recognized. From then on, Elliot began to withdraw, gently, without declaring, without blaming. But withdrawing wasn't as easy as leaving a party. The messages asking how he was doing began to decrease. A few sarcastic words are hidden behind the ha-ha expressions in the group chat. Some people said Elliot had changed his personality, pretentious, snobbish. He wanted to text back, to explain. But then he typed, then deleted, because he knew that if people understood, they wouldn't need an excuse. He spent time alone, writing, learning new languages, listening to philosophy podcasts, and taking long walks in the park with headphones on. As each day passed, Elliot breathed deeper and thought more clearly. Sometimes he felt lost, especially on birthdays, when his social media feeds were filled with pictures of cakes, balloons, and friends hugging and smiling. But then Elliot realized that none of those parties had ever really stuck with him. No memories, just laughter, loud and quickly forgotten. The memories weren't about the number of people who wished him well, but the people who made him feel like he didn't have to act. And their absence, or lack of it, made Elliot understand that he had to be his friend before he could truly connect with anyone else. An old friend, Kai, texted, "Are you okay? Haven't heard from you lately?" Elliot typed, "I'm just slowing down," then deleted and sent, "I'm fine, thanks." Kai was still part of the old group. I'm still partying, sharing stories every day. Elliot didn't hate it. He just knew he didn't belong in that world anymore. He didn't choose isolation. It was just that now Elliot needed more real conversations. Less but deeper. A cup of tea with a good listener, a heartfelt email from a friend far away, a text message without emojis but with empathy. Elliot chose to be alone, not because he was lonely, but because that's where he heard himself best. And from that silence, Elliot began to create something more significant. Silently, but not insignificantly. Success in silence. That silence isn't a void. It's a space. Elliot spent 3 years developing the English learning app. Not in a fancy office, but in a small corner of a public library, sometimes in a deserted coffee shop, or on a breezy balcony with his laptop and a notebook full of ideas. Some months, he had to stop because of a lack of funding. For some weeks, no one used the app. But Elliot patiently fixed every little bug, read every user feedback, and rewrote every line of code as if writing a letter to his 17-year-old self. At 30, Elliot doesn't have hundreds of birthday wishes like he used to. But he did receive a message from a 14-year-old in Bangladesh who had been using the English learning app he had developed for the past 3 years. The message was written in imperfect English. "Thank you. You changed my life." He stared at the message for a long time. Suddenly, he remembered the first time he got a 6 in English, feeling so incompetent that no one could save him. Now he is the one who helps kids like him, not with empty advice, but with concrete tools. Elliot laughed, softly, but deeply, like exhaling a part of his life that was once stuck. That is just a tiny part of what Elliot has done. His English learning app has reached over 2 million downloads, helping children in difficult areas access knowledge quickly and for free. He appeared on global education talk shows, not with a flashy reputation, but as a behind-the-scenes, quietly changing other people's lives. Elliot's blog in 3 languages, where he writes about slow living, independent thinking, and technological ethics, is shared everywhere by people tired of the noisy world. As an advisor to nonprofit startups, Elliot does not accept fame, leaving only anonymous emails and insightful comments that surprise everyone. Who is this person who sees so clearly? What about Elliot's old friends? One day, they sat in a small coffee shop mentioning him again. Elliot was famous back then, remember? Now I heard that he has a famous app abroad. He's also perfect. But he's a bit eccentric, isn't he? He disappears like a ghost. They laugh. Then, change the subject. No one knows what Elliot does every day. No one asks. But Elliot doesn't blame them. He understands that everyone has their own pace of life. Some stay, some move on. No one is wrong. They're no longer in the same direction. Elliot doesn't speak up. He doesn't need to. Because true success doesn't need to be proven. A knowledgeable person doesn't need to be understood right away. You know, those years alone were not wasted. They were the foundation for freedom, for creativity, and for a life that is true to the nature of a smart person, not following the crowd, but going far in his way. In the past, they laughed because I chose to be alone. I smile because I did not lose myself in their laughter. If this story touches your heart, even just a little, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to share kind, quiet, but not small things. Who knows, somewhere, someone also needs a moment of silence like you just found here. Thank you for watching Story Dino channel to discover interesting stories. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next interesting stories. Please share with your friends to spread joy and knowledge together. Wish you a great day and see you in the next videos.